Welcome back to another World Cup fantasy video ahead of match day 6. We are now at the semi-final stage, and I think a lot of us will be in a position where we back certain teams like Brazil and Portugal to go through, and it didn't happen. So if you still have the wildcard available, I have to say, those of you that have it, fair play. This will be a huge benefit to you, and you can now build a 15-man squad, and you also have plenty of transfers going into the final, at least 6, which you can use to also sort your team for that. And it doesn't matter which team gets eliminated now, because there will be a third place playoff, unlike in Euro 2020 fantasy football. So even if, let's say, Morocco go out, you still have these players for the final, and they might have an easier fixture as a result and can get more points. But let's wait and see. If you end up enjoying this video, then be sure to drop it a like. Let's try to get this to over 300. And we're also looking to push on towards 20,000 subscribers. I'm also going to be looking to do a team selection video and a deadline stream as always, and it should be a lot of fun. Still more content coming for the World Cup fantasy before we move back on to FPL. But without further ado, let's get straight into this video. Before I talk about the best wildcard team, I just want to make a quick disclaimer. All the kind of points and ranks you see on the left-hand side are out of date. These are from match day 5, where I had an incredible week, and you'll see how I did in match day 6 in the team selection video, as well as the deadline stream. So don't worry about all of that, but be sure to join the league, which you can see in the description below as well. There's a join link. You just click on it, and that's it. You automatically join the league. But now let's show you the best goalkeepers and go through it position by position. Despite us having 4 goalkeepers, it's very difficult to pinpoint the best possible ones. But with a wild card, you have more choice, so you can just maybe back the teams you think are going to go through. But I want to make one key point that maybe won't be stressed enough, and that's about the goalkeeper. So if you back, let's say, Argentina and Morocco to reach the final, if you go for Martinez and Bono and they end up reaching it, they're going to be facing each other in the final, so match day 7. And that's something else you need to think about, because then you will need to maybe make a goalkeeper transfer heading into match day 7. I don't think it's a big issue on the wild card necessarily, but if you are looking to get 2 goalkeepers using free transfers, that will be very problematic, and you would rather actually go for a keeper that's going to reach the final and one that will be eliminated and that will play the third place playoff, because they'll be on separate days, and you can also then make the substitution, and it maximizes your opportunities of gaining points. So if you don't understand that, then let me know down in the comment section below. But I think Martinez and Bono are amongst the best options in the game. But to be fair, you can make a case for Livakovic, who's having a great World Cup, and Lloris, who was incredible against England yesterday. But at the same time, I think France are probably the most suspect defensively of those 4 teams. They have the best attack arguably, but their defense is probably the least desirable and the one that's maybe least likely, you could say, to keep clean sheets. Although you could say on the other hand, they're facing Morocco, who have low XG in every single game, and they pretty much win games by 1-0 if anything, or they take it to penalties with a 0-0 like they did against Spain. And in that case, you might back Lloris in the semi-finals and the final, and France could become clutch here and keep the clean sheets when it really matters. That is possible, but at the same time, I still think Morocco and Argentina have better defenses. But to be honest, you could go for any single one of these goalkeepers. All I want to really stress with the goalkeeper pairing, especially with free transfers, is just make sure that if you have 2 goalkeepers that you think are going to reach the final, they're going to face each other match day 7, and that's something else you have to think about. I think the defenders really depends on who you go for in terms of the goalkeeper. So I've currently gone for Martinez and Bono, but you could easily go for Martinez and Lloris. And in that case, instead of going for Koundé and Theo Hernandez, which you can see on the bench, you could maybe go for Romain Saiss and Hakimi as a double up in Morocco instead. Now, you could triple up on a team defensively, and that's completely fine, but I think it's far too risky in this World Cup. It's so unpredictable, and despite Morocco only conceding 1 goal in 8 games, I think, under their current manager, and that was only an own goal against Canada, I still wouldn't go for a triple up when they're facing France, who are devastating in the front line, and you would still probably favour France in that game. Of course, you never know what can happen in the World Cup, but it's very difficult for me to really suggest a triple up in Argentina defence as well. So I actually would recommend the likes of Otamendi, Molina and Martinez, but in terms of having all 3, I think that's a step too far. And the reason I've gone for Molina here is because Montiel has been suspended. He got a yellow card for absolutely no reason, by the way, against the Netherlands, so he is suspended, and the other fullback that's suspended is Acuna on the left-hand side, so be aware of that. It will be Tagliafico starting on the left-hand side, but Molina scored that really crucial goal against the Netherlands, an incredible pass by Messi, and he also got an assist against Poland. So I think Molina is the best defensively from the Argentina defenders, and that was his first goal, by the way, for the national team. So I would highly recommend him. He's going to start match day 6. Match day 7, maybe it will be Montiel coming back in, whether it's the final or the third place playoff, but I would go for Molina here if you want an Argentina defender. Looking at the other defenders, I think Borna Sosa is a really obvious choice. You've also got Gavardiol, who might be a little bit more nailed on to play the full 90, which could also backfire, by the way, because Borna Sosa could maybe come off at 60, 70 minutes, depending on the situation, and then he can maybe bank a potential clean sheet. So even if Croatia concedes straight afterwards, it won't be a big issue. But either way, Borna Sosa is 3.5 million. You could also go for maybe Juranovic, who's been the most impressive Croatia defender, and as well as that, you've got Gavardiol and Livakovic in goal. So let me know your thoughts in terms of the best defenders from every single one of these teams, and the same goes for which goalkeepers you're going for. But I think this is pretty much fine. But Juranovic, I have to say, it could be worth that extra kind of million or so to go for him, because against Brazil in particular, he was very impressive. I've also gone for Hakimi here, and now Morocco, it's a big shame. They've got so many injuries at the back, including Mazauri, Agurd, and now potentially Romain Saiss. So keep an eye out on all those injuries. But if Romain Saiss is fit, then what you could do with this kind of defensive line is, instead of Bono, go for Lloris, for example, and then in the back line you can go for Hakimi and Romain Saiss, as I alluded to earlier. And we've gone for a double up in France defence. I think they have a good chance of a clean sheet in match day 6. That doesn't mean they're going to go through to the final, though. They could be knocked out on penalties, or even in extra time it could happen and one of these defenders are already taken off by that point. You just never know. Honestly, this World Cup is unpredictable, but Theo Hernandez has to be in it, I think. If you want to cover France defensively, he is the one with the attacking potential. He conceded that penalty against England, which is a really kind of stupid barge that he did, but offensively offers so much. And honestly, I look at the other France defenders, and in terms of the semi-final, I'm not so sure if they'll offer as much as Theo Hernandez offensively. But we've also got Koundé, who played very well against England, and he also banked a clean sheet against Poland just before Lewandowski converted his penalty in that game. So this is a strong defensive line, but honestly, you could go about it a completely different way. Go for Juranovic instead of Sosa. Maybe go for the double up in Croatia defense, because that's the only country here that we haven't doubled up on defensively. So just, it's completely up to you. What do you think is going to happen match day 6? And remember, if a player is eliminated, it's not the end of the world. They will still have a fixture in match day 7. It's a huge shame that certain kind of midfielders that are playing in that position right now aren't classified as midfielders in the game. And one big example is Antoine Griezmann. If he was a midfielder in this, I would be all over it, and he would be in this team for sure. He's having an incredible World Cup, probably in the top 3 or 5 players in the tournament, and he has been absolutely outstanding for France. He got 2 assists against England. He was pulling the strings, and it shows that France have more than just Mbappe. But I've gone for Ivan Perisic and Luka Modric as a duo. Now, I think Perisic is the better option, but Modric is on penalties. And you saw how good Modric was against Brazil. He could also do that against Argentina. It's going to be really difficult to contain him. And Croatia have arguably the best midfield left in this tournament. Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic is really difficult to handle. And as I talked about in previous weeks, Perisic is so clutch for Croatia. He's the all-time record goal scorer in international tournaments. So I think he's a really good option as well. And I would highly recommend Perisic if you want an offensive Croatia player. I've also gone for Di Maria. This is the Maverick player, a somewhat of a differential. He hasn't been playing so much in this tournament. He got an injury. He came on very late on against the Netherlands, and he already made a huge impact. He almost scored once again from a corner. He's tried a few of those in this tournament. It would be incredible to see that pay off at some stage. And honestly, Di Maria is that kind of difference maker, apart from Messi, who can draw people on, and he has so much creativity. So Angel Di Maria, now it's not a guarantee he's going to start, but if he does, we're going to get the lineup, of course, before the deadline. I would highly recommend going for Di Maria. He could be the absolute difference maker for Argentina, as well as your fantasy team. In terms of the other 2 midfielders we haven't covered yet, that includes Ziyech, who for me is the best Moroccan midfielder, but Boufal has been highly impressive as well, I have to say that. And whilst he doesn't have a goal or assist so far in this tournament, I think Boufal might have one in store in the next 2 match days. So he's another one to maybe look at. Amrabat has been fantastic for Morocco as well, but I would go for Hakim Ziyech because he's already got the goal contributions and he has been very good over the years for Ajax, and also his comeback story for Morocco is very impressive, and he gets key passes points, which is very crucial. So even if he blanks, he can still get 3 or 4 points because of those key passes, the chances he creates. So he's very, very good. And then we've gone for Rabiot as a way to cover the France midfield. But like I said, I would love it if Griezmann was a midfielder in this game. It's a shame he isn't, but Rabiot is in there. He almost scored against England, and he also got a goal and assist in matchday 1 against Australia. So maybe he is the best one to choose from in terms of the France midfielders. This is where things look really good in the front line. We've gone for Messi, Mbappe, and Olivier Giroud. Now, I'm going to highlight a few other options from other teams, and the main ones would include Kramaric from Croatia, but more importantly, I would say En-Nesyri, who scored an amazing goal against Portugal. A very big mistake by Diogo Costa, but the way he jumped for that was incredible. And not only that, Alvarez is another fine choice, but I have to say, I would probably just stick with Messi, and you've already got Di Maria here, so a double up in Argentina offensively is already fine. Croatia have only conceded, I think, 2 goals or 3 goals in this World Cup. They're very hard to break down, and they haven't lost in the last 11 matches. So I think Messi is already fine enough, and we'll talk about the captaincy very soon. And I would go for a double up in France attack, despite the fact that they're facing the best defense in this tournament. They've only conceded 1 goal, which of course, like I said, was the own goal by a Gerd. But Giroud is the best option at his price and below, period. The only one that could rival him, I think, is Alvarez, but I would go for Giroud. And Kylian Mbappe is still a fantastic choice. Despite his blank against England, he was completely quiet. He produced an XG of exactly 0. He was ineffective, but it also opened up the spaces for Giroud, Dembele, and also many others like Griezmann, who pulled the strings and was man of the match in that game. So I think the front three is sensible, and there's not going to be any real surprise there. And also, this best wildcard team will help you, even if you don't have the wildcard, just with ideas for free transfers. And, you know, what can I do to get full 11 out? Because I'm going to be struggling for that. You'll see that in the team selection video. But I have to say, this is looking like a really good team, and we still have a few million left over. I believe I have 2.5 million left in the bank after building this 15-man squad. Before we wrap up, I want to just mention a few things. So in terms of your bench, make sure you have no Argentina or Croatia players on your bench, because they're going to be playing first on the Tuesday, the 13th of December. Do not have any Argentina or Croatia players on your bench. Have them all in your starting 11, and make sure to captain an Argentina or Croatia player. I'm going to go for Messi. Every time I've captained him in this tournament, he's done well. The only time I haven't, he blanked against Poland, but he was absolutely incredible in that game anyway. But I'm going to captain him first. I think that's quite self-explanatory. But my backup captain will be Kylian Mbappe. You might go about it differently, and you might even have the power captain activated if you're not using the wildcard, for example. But obviously, for those wildcarders, you can't use 2 boosters or chips at the same time, and I would just go for Messi and Mbappe as the captains on each day, and that's about it. Remember, you can only switch to captaincy once anyway. We've only got 2 games now for match day 6 and 7, and I would keep it very simple from now on. So the captaincy is definitely explained. You might want to take a punt, especially if you're looking to get to a certain rank. Maybe go for a Di Maria, something a bit maverick like that, but I'm going to keep it simple, go for Messi and Mbappe. However, I am heavily considering the likes of Giroud for a captaincy option against Morocco. So let me know your thoughts on this team and what you would change. Like I said, there's a few little details that you could possibly, you know, go about it a bit differently. Maybe go for double up in Croatia defensively, go for Livakovic in goal. You could also go for maybe a double up in terms of Morocco defenders instead of France, and change things up a little bit here and there. But I think it's a very solid team, a great foundation, and wildcarders will have a huge advantage for match day 6 in particular. I don't think, you know, those that are struggling to get an 11 out in match day 6 will struggle for the final in match day 7, but I think it's more a case of trying to deal with match day 6, build the best team possible, get an 11 out there if you don't have the wildcard. And for those that do have it, you have a great advantage, because I actually need to take a -3 hit to get to an 11, and I'll talk more about that in the team selection video. But thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed or found it useful, then be sure to smash the like button and subscribe for new. Like I said, let's try to get this to over 300 likes, and let's also push on towards 20,000 subscribers. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check the links in the description below for the Patreon, the channel memberships, for many perks such as early access to videos and much, much more. The same goes for the Discord server and the World Cup Fantasy League. And be sure to check out my FPL and UCL fantasy content once the World Cup has finished and we don't have any more World Cup fantasy content. I wish you all the best of luck for this World Cup. I hope you enjoy it, and I'll see you next time.